Well, I didn't think I'd be making part 3 of this video quite so soon than this. I was hoping the last one would be a demonstration of my craftsman and workmanship on recapping this and somewhat restoring it, but it didn't work out. I usually start out with doing the filter capacitors. Now, if you remember from the last video, when I changed the filter capacitor, or at least when I bridged that filter capacitor, it sounded pretty good. And so I thought, well, that's the end of this project, and it tuned up some stations nicely, so I thought, well, we can go on from there. And, well, things didn't work out that way. As I said just a moment ago, that I usually like to start out kind of in the power supply area here of the schematic and just do the filter capacitors and then kind of work my way up to the front end of the radio, replacing all the brown roundies and wax nasties in there. But as I started doing this, I replaced these two filter capacitors, as you can see right here. I clipped them completely out of the circuit, so it looks, like it just came off the showroom floor. But so I just clipped everything off the filters here and tied the new capacitors into a lug somewhere that was appropriate. And what I like to do as I start doing something like that is I'll go in and every now and then I'll turn the radio on, make sure it works okay, and it did for the first section of the capacitor I put in. Then as I was going along replacing some of the other parts to this, the volume kept going lower and lower and lower, and the audio just started getting worse and worse and sounding just horrible. I mean, it was just so garbled you couldn't make out what the announcer on the radio was saying. So I thought, well, boy, something's going terribly wrong here. So either I did something wrong or something failed on it. So what I did was I started my troubleshooting technique of just going from the speaker on back first and to see where the failure was. So an easy way to what I like to do is to test for audio is to go in on the volume control and on the wiper, the center wiper, as you see right here. I usually like to inject a signal there. And when I did, I got out my audio oscillator and injected a little signal there. The volume was extremely low, and it didn't matter if you had it turned up, turned down on the volume control up here. It just would not work. I mean, it just sounded awful. It was distorted beyond belief, and the volume was so low that I could barely hear it without putting my ear down to the speaker. So I figured, well, from somewhere this point on, either the preamp tube or the final output tube, something was terribly wrong. So then my next step was to go ahead and on the 35L6, I thought, well, maybe that tube failed or just went away. So I hunted around in my junk box for another 35L6. Didn't have one, so I took this one out and put it into two of my 3 tube testers, and it tested just fine, just like the rest of them. So, well, maybe it's the 12SK7, the preamp tube in this circuit. So I pulled that out, and I did find a replacement, put it in there, and it was slightly better, but really not worth changing out. So obviously something in this circuit here is wrong. And my next step was to inject a audio signal right into the grid of the output tube here. And it sounded fine. I did that and the signal came out real nice and clean and loud. And so somewhere between the wiper of the volume control, which is right here, I'll try to zoom in on that a little bit. Somewhere between here and here was a problem. So I thought, well, I'll go in and I'll measure the voltages on the tube, and this little writers here is got a nice handy schematic and pictorial diagram of the tubes. And I was looking here on the 12SK7, and I don't know if you can read it. I can't read it. It's just so muddy that it really didn't make much sense to. I started looking at voltages. Plate voltage was okay, but all the rest of them, I'm not sure what they're talking about on some of this because it just doesn't look right. So I thought, well, we'll just go start replacing components. I changed out some capacitors in here, some of those paper wax nasties, and that didn't make any difference. And then I got down here to this resistor. It's the screen grid resistor, number 31 here, and it's a, as you can see here on the parts list, number 31 is a 2.2 meg 1/4 watt resistor. And I turned the power off, discharged the filters, stuck my meter on it, and it was open. And let me get that resistor out here and I'll show you what it is. And here it is, and as you can see, it is a 2.2 megohm, million ohm resistor, red, green. And it's one of these little tiny, I think it's a 1/4 watt because it's just not shaped like a 1/2 watt, that size. It's a little longer but narrower. And that read 0 ohms. It went completely open on me within the first 5 or 10 minutes of operating this radio. And that resistor is located right down here. I'll see if I can get the camera over here to see it a little better. Right where I'm pointing there. And I've, of course, replaced it now, but it's really odd because when I first started this little project, I went through and did a quick resistance test of all the resistors in here, which is the nice thing about a vacuum tube radio is you can test those in circuit, and if the resistance is the same or a little bit higher, you're okay. If the resistance is way low, then it's obviously in parallel with something, because normally these resistors will raise in value as they age. They start absorbing moisture and things, especially these little brown roundies. They're terrible about that. They will start raising resistance. So that's one easy way to check those out without having to pull them out of the circuit. Anyway, I put the new resistor in it and turn the radio on like you see right here, and we'll let it warm up a second.
I could open my eye. I had no pain in that eye. There was no pain in that eye.
And it just jumped to life. It was so loud, my wife came down from upstairs to see what was going on. It was
to drive home and get home as fast as I could so that the golf ball would go down.
Very nice volume, very loud and crisp, clear.
I almost made it home.
Tone control works good. Both bands, AM and shortwave, worked good, so that solved that problem. And from there on, I went through the whole chassis here and replaced everything that could possibly fail.
Not only was I not feeling pain.
Sounds pretty good. So that was my latest experience on this project. Hopefully you'll gain a little bit of knowledge on how to troubleshoot an audio circuit. Just like I said, I like to go from the tail end first, from the speaker to the output tube to the preamp tube, and then the detector in front of that, and work your way forward. And that works out really well sometimes. So I'm real happy with this fix. So anyway, thanks for watching. Sure appreciate it. And hopefully in video number 4, maybe we will get the alignment out of the way and we can get it back to my friend who owns this thing, and he can enjoy it for the rest of his life. Thanks for watching again. Appreciate it. We'll catch you in the next video.